Okay, so yeah, so when I got into the normal grade 5 class in Parkdale, um the teacher's name I believe was Miss Adamovich or something like that. We were to call her Miss A. And so I at that time had met my mom had a friend. His name was Marty, and she had a son named Jacob, and Jacob also had an older brother. I never really had much contact with the older brother, but me and Jacob were somewhat friends. um, so we went to grade 5 together. Um, he was my first crush. We did a little something something. Um, Once we explored each other sexually. Um, After that, it was like we pretended that that never happened, which was kind of confusing for me because I knew I liked it and I felt good, but whatever. um, he also was cruel. He would be very belittling, very degrading. Um, he would he would go hefty, 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 wimpy, 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 pointing to me. And be quite demeaning and belittling to me. And that kind of confused me. Um, had it was one day in grade 5. There was a girl. I believe her name was Melody, and she said something to him like, "You're a jerk. Like you're an asshole. Like stop. You're just a mean jerk." And he strangled her. He went up and was legit like strangling her. And some other people came by, and like there's other people there, and so they got him off of her. And I just kind of lost my shit. I was crying and emotional, and I was like, I don't understand why he does this. I don't get this. I don't get this. And so people were trying to um, calm the girl down. People were trying to calm me down, and Jacob kind of became this less than getaway like scuzz as he was. And at that point, we never hung out again. But before that, we were hanging out quite a bit, right? We hung out and we were friends and all that sort of stuff. We grade 5 was difficult because I was not I was not part of the. First of all, you gotta remember. So at that point, it was elementary. So I was like coming into the class in the last grade of elementary school, and never been there before. And I was shy AF, so I was kind of a loner, and I was not very good at hygiene, at taking care of myself. So I had dandruff, and so people just and I had zits happening, and so we were just picking on everything. And so that was kind of rough for me. But yeah, so grade 5 was not a good time. Um, but I graduated. There was actually I remember being so embarrassed, even at the teachers back then. So there was some kind of contest we had, and I won. And I had to choose what cassette tape I wanted to get. Now, this is back in the days where there were cassette tapes, not DVDs, not uploading on your phone. Like it was cassette tapes, right? So I had to choose what cassette tape I would want. And I was too embarrassed to say what I want, which would have been a hair band. I was very much into Poison. Um, Partially because they were very cute men, and partially because I enjoyed heavy metal. I enjoyed that light heavy metal, that hairband heavy metal, and so I won the contest, and it was probably about 2 or 3 months later, like probably about 2 months later, and eventually the principal was just like, yo, I need to just know what you want. Like, you need to stop and just choose something. Like, fuck kid, choose something already. So I was feeling pressured, and I told my teacher what I wanted, and I said, well, I think I'd want Poison Open Up and Say Ah. And so the principal asked me, and everyone was standing around watching, and it was very embarrassing, and like everyone's watching me. And so the teacher said, well, I think you said you wanted Poison Open Up and Say Ah. And in a what I felt was like a very mocking way. So then the other kids are laughing, and the principal's like, yep, got it, I'll get that. So I got my tape, but yeah, I felt like I was being very much centered out, and very much had a spotlight on me, and being demeaned a little bit. And so yeah, so that was grade 5. So that kind of started my downturn of like not feeling confident in myself, although I already kind of wasn't. But that and the Jacob thing, yeah, that was just starting to wreak havoc on my self-esteem. So then I go to middle school. And so middle school was Hillcrest. And so there was a Hillsdale and Hillcrest, and there was elementary school and middle school, right beside each other. I went to Hillcrest, so I went there. I went in. I remember first day of Hillcrest, someone tried to shove me in the locker, and I remember thinking that, okay, this cannot happen. I cannot let this happen, or else it will happen all the time. So I took a page out of my mom's book, and I went fucking cuckoo. And I just started reacting and saying, don't touch me, don't you dare touch me, and like acting like a fool. And I guess that scared them, because they were just like, ooh, okay, this bitch is cray, we are not going to touch this. And they never put me in a locker. They did pick on me, and I got picked on. Again, hair, dandruff in the hair, acne. I was called many names. I was like, my sexuality was kind of budding, so, and I didn't quite understand what was happening. So showers were fun, not right, where like you're naked and showering, and things are happening, you're getting erections, and other guys are looking at you, seeing that your erection, and your reaction is not the same as their reaction. Their reaction is like, oh my god, put that away. And your reaction is, oh my god, you're hot. My reaction is, oh my god, you're hot. I remember trying to sneak a peek at boys in the change room when we changed for gym in middle and high school. And boys very much kind of getting the grasp. I am not someone who can be like casual, right? Like, this is not a poker face. Like, you know what I'm looking at when I'm like, I have no chill. I do not have chill. Again, back then I still don't. So like, it wasn't hard to tell. But yeah, so middle school was interesting. I remember the homerooms in middle school as being pretty cool, and being pretty solid. But yeah, I remember high school or middle school being kind of more of a divide, more of a beat down to my self-esteem, and understanding that I'm not the same as everyone else. And we didn't have the same acceptance of differences in others back then as we do now, thankfully. um and and that's when I started to kind of also know my sexuality, and kind of know that I liked boys, and knew that was a bad thing, and back then it was a bad thing. So this is when the AIDS pandemic and crisis is starting to come out, and so you're getting a lot of people who have AIDS, and a lot of the public sentiment of being silly faggot, dicks are for chicks. And if it wasn't for these goddamn faggots, we wouldn't be having to wear rubbers. And, the Guns N' Roses song. I can't remember what it. One in a Million. The immigrants tried to. Those immigrants and faggots that make no sense to me. They come to our country and do as we please, like to Jimmy our rent or spread some fucking disease, right? And these are sentiments that were back then, and so I had that kind of starting to bubble up and kind of hearing that and starting to really, really chip away at my self esteem. So then I go to high school. And high school was a little more, high school was very isolating. Um, People did pick on me. It was more so just verbal. And like, I don't recall ever having a physical confrontation in high school, like with bullies or anything like that. I remember there being a lot of verbal insults and stuff like that, and certainly a feeling of otherness and not being very popular, not having very many people. Although I did have a solid group of friends. I had like three or four of us that we had known in middle school and then in high school, and we had always kind of been together. We had, we went to the corner store and stole porn magazines and talked about sex and masturbation and chicks and all that sort of stuff. But I was very closeted back then. I mean, I knew I liked boys, and I knew, like, when I looked at the porn magazines, I was looking at the men. Um, and I actually remember bringing one of my friends home with me to my house because we were going to exchange some porn magazines. And we did, and then he went to the bathroom, and I was like, gee, I hope he kind of does something, give me a hint that he wants some kind of interaction, which he did not. Or at least he didn't give me any hints. Maybe he did. I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, that I had a solid group of friends, that were kind of my crew, that we protected each other and we were kind of the support for each other. But by and large, I was an unpopular person in high school. Um, I will talk at some point. So high school was, like I say, very isolating for me. I did get to a point in high school several times, probably in grade 10, 11, where like I legit didn't want to wake up. I had a steady diet of Neocitrin, of pharmaceutical cough medicine, and NyQuil, that I would take every night just to put me to sleep because it would stop the pain from hiding my sexuality and other stuff. There was some sexual molestation that happened to me, which I'll discuss in another video. But there's a lot of pain, and a lot of hurt, and I did feel very isolated. And I did take those medications, hoping that I would go to sleep and not wake up again. NyQuil and Dristan and Neocitrin were my three. It's amazing that my mom never said anything or thought anything. Like, here I am, always having medication on my dresser, and I would have them right out in the open on my dresser, and my mom never was like, you have an awful lot of medication that you're taking, and you're not sick that often. Like, what's going on? She never said anything. But that was what it was. But yeah, so there was a lot of isolation to the point where I did seriously almost try to harm myself once. I was saved by if you believe in a miracle or luckiness, just plain old luck. But yeah, I was very close to jumping. Um, but I think that's enough for tonight. So yeah,